I think that most organizations view employee giving as a check the box, like something that we need to do, especially now that we talk about engagement. But this doesn't just check the box if you run a Casino Royale theme. Like you're leaving a lot of depth off the table. And we said we wanted to play the long game. These are people that are, really invested in our mission. They're spending their lives. They're investing most of their time here. Why are we playing the short game and like trying to gimmickly get them to give so we can reach some artificial participation number that at the end of the day doesn't really matter? Yeah. So we really were, and I think this is the one, if there's one thing I would take is say, play the long game with your employees. I mean, hopefully they're going to stay with you a long time. And why would you not want to get them to fall in love with philanthropy at your organization? And if they actually become believers that their philanthropy did something, you're absolutely activating them to become ambassadors to everybody. And at a hospital, activating 10,000 people, which, we never got to 10,000 because we don't believe in 100% participation is actually achievable when you do that. But even you get past 3,000, when we get from 300 to 3,000, you have 3,000 people that have authentically given to something that was not pressure oriented, but they have seen the impact of their gift. That is turning on its heads that they can go and share that message with patients, with families, with their network, the community. And that's what we are playing for, because that's the long game. It's not just trying to get to 100% participation so we feel better, because there's obviously easier ways to do that. It probably involves a lot of prizes and a lot of gimmicks, right?
Pizza prize on Friday, Jeans Day. Right. Oh my gosh, I've done a lot of that. So you said something that struck me, and I know we've talked about this before, but I do want to pause and go back to it. So there are no campaign targets. There's not a dollar amount and there's not a participation amount.
That is very disruptive as well.
That is disruptive. It is shocking. I think I can really buy into, okay, let's cut out the financial target. But I've heard so many times, time and time again, and I've preached it, let's get 100% participation. In fact, even like working within small communities, I say, let's get 100% participation. It's not about the quantity that they give, but it's the quality coming from the heart and that we're all in this together. So bring my mind around to why that's counterproductive and what's a better solution.
Love it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
John.
So a couple of things. One is that I do think 100%, I love that we're saying 100%. Your leadership, it is expected that the leadership should be on board 100%.
Okay. So board members, C-suite, executives, all on.
Because they're actively making that decision. You're at a not-for-profit healthcare system. You have to be bought into the philanthropic side of that. If there's other places to plug in and work. You're a board member. Come on. Yes. How are we expected to go raise money in the community if our board's not giving? That's the easiest. I'm 100% on board. I love that. Keep saying with that. However, at the granular level, we're not saying don't have goals, because obviously the team needs to have a goal to wrap their head around. And we would always have financial targets. We're building budgets. And we're doing that, but we just never made that like the banner of the campaign. Like the banner of the campaign is just find your passion and make a gift. It's not we're trying to get to $500,000 and you're a number. Like we never wanted people to feel like a number. We wanted them to feel like we see you and we want you to direct whatever is meaningful to you to a place that you care about, because we're playing the long game. We don't need their $50 actually, I mean, we do, but we want their heart to be bought into this. Like that is much more valuable than the $50. Discourage the $50 because obviously it takes all of us coming together.
Yeah. And I would add to that in some way that, when you put a number out there as a major, like a recovering major gift officer, you create a ceiling. And we didn't want to create a ceiling. We just wanted to open a door and see what would happen. And if you really are subscribed to the long game, if you really think, and especially in healthcare, because if you have ever worked at a healthcare institution, some of those people have worked there their entire lives. I mean, we had people that had worked there 35, 45, 50 years. And, paid time off is a way that you can give. And we had people making hourly rates who could give $1,000 to the campaign through their paid time off and feel like a major gift donor. But I also just want to say that if you can just commit to not focusing on the money, because the intrinsics are the things that will be the thing that will lift all boats at the end. So the fact that they are sharing on their own social media channels, the fact that they're enjoying coming to work and retention improves, the fact that they are on their own identifying, I want to give more and more because it helps the organization and it gives me a good feeling. So, I mean, we went from what, 40 grand to, I mean, it's almost $1 million campaign now. And the foundation runs the logistics, but the ambassadorship is so rabid and the employees who give are so bought in. And we did some things as a marketing perspective. I mean, we had an online giving portal. And so we would have an Ajax window that would pop up and say, hey, you gave this last year. Do you want to upgrade $1 more or $3? So, I mean, it's there. But they're the ones identifying it, and putting that power in their hand is helping us see that there is never a ceiling and never a goal that we will always reach. And it literally has proven to be recession proof and quarantine proof. So they're doing it right now, and they are rocking it. I think they're close to $250,000.
$750,000.
Three-quarters.
Yeah. I mean, they're just inches away from 3,000 donors. And I think that's what's fascinating, is that when you connect it to those bigger things, you know, you can't even have a discussion on the table of like, should we do this? Like, it's part of the employee engagement. Like, they feel so connected to it that it's become a fabric in the culture of the organization. So I think that's, to us, what employee giving has the power to do, is to change the culture and add this really cool texture to the fabric that's already there.
And so is this every year, the employee giving campaign, or is it for a one-time big push? Every year, annual gift. So it's no different than asking for an annual gift from another target audience. And for us, we just felt like if you start within the family to ask for giving, and if you can get the family bought in, then they're already our mouthpiece. We don't, the foundation doesn't, the fundraising arm doesn't have to yell so loudly, because we have, you know, rather than just 10 of us, it's, you know, 3,000 people now talking how great it is and are bought into it. So do you use the co-chair concept? Tell me about like the groups of volunteers and how much they own as opposed to the fundraising or marketing department.
Yeah, well, you know, since we can talk 10 years out from the outset of when we first established this, it sounds like we have our complete act together on it, but we learned a lot. We failed a lot. And I just think there's so much freedom in using this to like test different ideas and approaches. And in the beginning, we were so staff focused. You know, we had a foundation of 10 and we're like, we're going to do this. We're going to run this campaign. And we would book, this is clearly pre-COVID, we would book ourselves to death, going all over campuses, getting in meetings, because we're the ones that need to present this and share this. And Becky and I probably had 50 or 60 presentations in 1 month, you know, with different groups. And it was just a drain on our team. It was a drain on just trying to actually make it physically happen. And trying to be visible. And that was the first few years of the campaign. And then we felt like we plateaued, because we did plateau. You know, we plateaued at around 1,200 or 1,300 donors. And I think we had to have a reality check moment of why did it plateau? And there were some things that we had been holding on to as into the campaign that we needed to rethink. And the power of that moment was to look around and say, we're not bringing enough people into the leadership of this movement. And while it was putting the power in the donors' hands, we were not putting the power of like letting the camp play out through volunteers in that same way. So that next year we brought in, there's 3 big shifts that we could make, or that we did make at that time when we plateaued. And one of them was completely reimagining the volunteer structure for the campaign. So we did recruit co-chairs with just the intent of making the campaign really relevant to the leadership of the organization. So making it personally reaching out to their peers and focusing on that top, you know, kind of brass of the organization. Then we recruited people from every facility level to be kind of a champion for the campaign. And, you know, we're looking at past donors. We're not saying like, who can you voluntold to do this assignment? We're like trying to find people that are already passionate, already bought in. Absolutely, just activating them and giving them a new role.
And so finding somebody in every department is what you're saying.
Yeah. So we did it at the facility level, and then they went to the departments and found people within the departments that already loved the campaign.
Right.
And now we had this bench of 150 plus people at all levels.
Wow.
So we got organized. And then
it's very guerrilla style, like going after it, but it works. So
yeah.
The other big shift, and this is kind of getting off your volunteer question a little bit, is that, our volunteer auxiliaries at the hospital were very passionate, very involved in the organization. And they were actually one of the biggest philanthropic contributors to the hospital. So, they would raise money for their gift shops and they would make really pointed gifts. So we, had not found the right way to engage them in the campaign because we were asking for their personal giving. And we realized something wasn't clicking because very few of them were giving. They're almost like offended. And, it took a few years to really start the conversation with them and realize you're part of the family. We'd love to have you as part of this family campaign. And ultimately where we landed was pitching a matching gift concept to the volunteer auxiliaries. So if your auxiliary is around and they're philanthropic, this is a really, really powerful tool that you can leverage. But that same year that we mobilized the new volunteers, structurally, we got the auxiliaries to offer a challenge matching gift to our employees. So it literally added this.
So the auxiliaries they were the ones who set the match, and then that would be matched by the employees.
$200,000. I mean, across all of the different sites that we were in, and one of the other things that is really disruptive is we picked passion projects, so everybody knew exactly what they were going to buy and exactly how many people it would impact. So if you identified your passion was pediatrics, you knew that we were going to be building all of these mobile stations that could go into, 20 different pediatric rooms. And that would help 1,200 kids this year. And it's like so people are picking their passion and it's like, well, how much do I want to give to a Wii rolling station?
What is a Wii rolling station?
Wii, like Xbox, like
WII.
Yeah, WII. Sorry. Yeah. So little gaming systems mobile and go into rooms. So it's like, well, I would give $100 to that, or I would give $10 per pay period to something like that. So
super tangible, something that they've interacted with, they like it. And are you tracking what they like? Are you asking them? Is there a survey? Is there like a pre or post?
Oh yeah. I mean, just by virtue of them saying my passion is pediatrics, we already know a lot about them and we can contour stewardship that way. We'll get incredible photos of kids playing with that Xbox or whatever it is. I switched to Xbox so I don't confuse anyone else. And so it makes a really great impact report, that we'll send out the month before the next campaign to give them all that great feeling all over again before we launch again.
And what I love about what the impact report does is that, you've got to have this tangible expression of here's what your money did. I mean, these people are the closest to you. You can't fake them. You can't put a stock photo.
They know.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
And so the power of that is, and it's challenging, is at least in healthcare, it's like get something done in a year, like to actually bought, deployed, and in place. Sometimes things sit in crates for months. I didn't even know even happened in the 2000s. But you've got to be able to show that impact because they're looking and they want to see it and they want to feel part of that. And that's part of how you create this uprising of excitement.
With this latest valuable episode, we'd love to thank you for joining us on the Creating Community for Good podcast. If you found today's show valuable, simply visit our website, creatingcommunityforgood.com, to leave a review as well as to get access to additional resources and relevant links from this show. Stay tuned for more episodes.